What's up, what's up, what's up? This is your captain, the Pack King. Ready to take flight. Thanks for boarding the jet plane. We're moving at turbo speed. Got my Fiji water. Got a lot of things on my mind tonight. We got a lot of things to talk about. First thing I want to talk about is an album I listened to. Oh my goodness. This album was fire. Of course, it's in the hip-hop genre. Shout out to Joey Badass, representing Brooklyn to the fullest. He just dropped a new project, and when I tell you I really enjoyed it, it's fire, fire. It's called 2000. Shout out to Joey Badass. Great project. The crazy thing about this particular artist too is that his name really rings a bell with me. It really resonates with me. And for the craziest reason, Joey. Now people who know me personally know that in 2022, one of the hardest moments for me was finding out that my childhood best friend Joey died in a tragic motorcycle accident. Rest in peace to my best friend homie from like birth all the way to the teenager years. So many memories with my dude Joey. And he transcended earlier this year. Every year there's like moments that I could just point to where I was just devastated, and I can also point to moments where I was definitely like on cloud nine. But as it pertains to Joey this year, man, this year I was devastated. So rest in peace to my good friend and homie Joey. And so when I listen to Joey Badass, naturally it just makes me think about my brother from another mother, Joey from the block. And I kind of listen in that ear, you know, I can't help it. It helps that he has badass at the end of his name, you know what I mean? Even though my boy Joey was a badass too. And both of them are badasses in a good way. Bad in a good way. Like, Joey Badass, man, he just, creatively, man, he just blows me away, man. It's like, wow, this guy is really, really talented, you know what I mean? I didn't mean to do that. Oh well. But shout out to Joey. Rest in peace, bro. And shout out to Joey Badass for just such an amazing project. You know, just, man. I can't even tell you, like, I went and listened, after listening to 2000, I had to go listen to Joey Badass's whole collection. Like, I just had to YouTube his whole collection, real talk. And then I listened to, like, from Summer Nights all the way to the latest one, 2000. I just played the whole, and I was just like, up until like 3 o'clock in the morning, listening to Joey Badass's collection, and I just finished off with 2000. It was just an amazing. He has so many amazing projects. I mean, his last project before this one, I think it was called, what was it called? All American Badass. Oh my goodness, that one. Like, I listened to our interview that he did on the Breakfast Club last night. I had to just listen to that interview and just see where he was coming from. And he's definitely, I would agree with Charlemagne, that he's definitely ahead of his time when it comes to the wisdom that's in his music, you know what I'm saying? As well as just him as a person, you know, it's like, wow, this young man really, he was only 5 in the year 2000, but he really understands so much about life at such a young age. It's truly impressive to me. And it actually kind of, not kind of, but it definitely inspired me to want to pick up the mic again. And if you go to his YouTube, you'll notice that he has a whole LP of beats from, I think, Pro Era. And those beats, man, they are just fire. And I turned to his beats last night. I was just listening to him. And I just felt like so inspired after listening to him to just pick up the mic, It was like, goodness gracious, that's what we're supposed to do for each other, you know what I mean? You hear MC going crazy on the mic, it's like it makes you wanna go crazy on the mic. And around the same moment that I was actually feeling inspired, I went on the gram. I'm not really on the gram that much these days, but I went on the gram, and like the second thing I saw once I went on the gram was Busta Rhymes. And he was in this ad. I could tell it was an ad for like a beat company or a music hip hop production company. And what caught me was that, Busta Rhymes co-signing to this challenge. It's called the Up Top Challenge. Hashtag Up Top Challenge. So I saw Busta Rhymes, and usually I just skip past ads, I'm not really stopping for ads. But when I saw Busta Rhymes, I was like, okay, because Busta Rhymes is like one of my favorite hip hop artists of all time. Like, he's in my top 5, hands down. Like, so I mean, when I saw him in the ad, naturally I'm gonna be like, okay, what's he doing in here? So I listen. He turns on this beat, and he's like announcing this 16 bar challenge, and he's like, go to their page, give me your hottest 16. And I went and downloaded the beat, and I'm just like listening to the beat. This is all last night. Like, it's crazy. I couldn't sleep. I was so excited. I started experimenting with the beat. I think I might submit to this, to this challenge, the Up Top Challenge. I like the name too, the Up Top Challenge. The Up Top Challenge. Try saying that fast. Yeah, I mean, I crossed 100,000 points already. I wasn't expecting to be here so fast. So, when you like listen to an artist as amazing as Joey Badass, it's like you feel inspired to just pick up the mic, you just feel inspired by it. And I'm sure he's like your favorite rapper's favorite rapper. I'm gonna probably say of his generation, he even said it in his own album, one of the songs, he mentioned that he's in the same classification. He's in the rankings of your Cole, your Kendrick Lamar, like mention his name with them. And I would agree. Like, you gotta mention his name. But that's just the effect I feel like artists like him have in general, or artists like me. Because it's so easy to... He had another bar in one of his songs where he was like, y'all are pros at procrastination. Y'all are pros at procrastination. When he said that, I was like, man, I can relate to that. So I can so relate to that. I feel like I'm not just the Pat King, but I'm also the king procrastinator when it comes to certain things. So when he said that, it struck me. It struck a chord in me. It struck a nerve. I was like, you know what? I gotta stop with this procrastination for real. Like really. I gotta get on the job. I gotta if I wanna complete a project, I gotta sit down and make the time to complete it. No excuses. So you know, Joey, all I have to say is, man, you inspired more than just music. Like your actual lyrics inspired me to get my act together. And I feel like that's what hip hop as a culture, that's the effect it should have on brothers like me, especially, you know, people of color in general. It should resonate with you like that. Like, I remember when Hov said that line, "I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman," you know? Like certain lines just resonate and they become hip-hop quotables. And I would say like Joey Badass, man, he has so many lines like that. He has so many hip-hop quotables in all his music, not just this latest album that came out. But yeah, shout out to him. Congratulations on finishing such an amazing project. I'm definitely gonna bump it again. Probably when I get home tonight. I like to listen to things multiple times because, you know, the first time it's like it's shock value. The first time that you just in shock that you're listening to something so amazing that you're not even really listening. You're just in shock. You can't believe this album is so good. The second time you listen to it, it's like you're really listening to the creative, artistic. I mean, you're still in awe of this creativity, but now you're listening to it, like digesting the message, and there's just so much that happens in the second time you listen to it. So, if you hear me like listening to an album, if you observe me listening to an album multiple times, then just know that it's because I loved it on many levels. And the only way to really process it is to listen to it multiple times. But like I said, there's like, I got a lot on my mind. I can't get it all off right now. But the ones that are not too deep, I could definitely divulge in. I think a lot of times people want to know, like, what's going through the mind of the Pat King on just a day-to-day basis. And I'm like, nah, you don't really want to know. You don't really want to know what's going through the mind of the Pat King on a day-to-day basis. You think you want to know, but you don't want to know. And I'm not even going to burden you with that. But sometimes I swear to you, I feel like I figured it all out, you know? I swear to you, I feel like I figured it all out. Like everything, the meaning of existence, the meaning of life, who God is, what God isn't. Like, I swear to you, I feel like I figured it all out. And I be wanting to tell y'all, but I like, nah, you know what? My philosophy on telling y'all, I use the metaphor of like the movie that everybody's raving about. That movie. And don't you hate it when somebody like comes and spoils the ending for you? And I feel like every person is meant to, you know, like discover the answer of existence for themselves. It's not for me to spoon feed it to you, because that would be the same as spoiling a good movie. The whole point of this is that you figure it out on your own through life experience. Like, you take the journey, you live the ride, and in the course of living the ride, hello Blinky, in the course of living the ride, you figure it out, and then you get like surprised, like, oh my goodness, this is so amazing. But if I tell you, yeah, it's nice to know, and you'll get it, but it will ruin the opportunity that you will have to figure it out for yourself. And my theory about it is, okay, at certain ages, everybody figures it out eventually. And the ones who don't, they just weren't meant to. It's that simple. But I feel like at some point, everybody does in fact figure it out. Like, I feel like my grandmother, she's 97. She's still going strong, mentally sharp. I got too greedy right there. I feel like she, to a certain extent, has figured it out. She's been through so many of life's ups and downs, pleasures and pains, gives and takes, losses and gains. At the age of 97, especially in 2022, I mean, she was born in 1925. Like, she was born during the Great Depression. You know what I mean? Like, that says a lot. You were born during the Great Depression? And you were born like before the Civil Rights Movement? You were walking around during the era, the Jim Crow era? You was like an adult pretty much when Dr. King and Malcolm X and the great legends we know of, A. Philip Randolph. He was a full-blown adult when they were on the scene. I didn't even exist yet. So she's seen it all. Shout out to Granny. But I feel like she definitely would have by now a concrete idea. Can I get it? Woo, I got it. She would definitely have a concrete idea as her inner truth as to why we are here and what the meaning of life is. I think of it like a pie, like a pie, a circle, but cut slices like a pie chart. And if your slice of pie, which represents how much you know about the meaning of life, if your slice of pie is, let's say, a 30% slice. If you got 30% slice, well, I almost ran right into soup. You're doing amazingly well. If you figured out the meaning of life and existence to the point where you could say you've covered 30% of the answer, if you don't have to have the whole answer. If you got 30% of the answer, that's one heck of an accomplishment. I feel like if I had to answer the question for myself, I feel like my slice of the pie is at like 67%. A good 67%. Like, I don't have all the knowledge, and I don't want all the knowledge. I just want to be able to answer to myself, like, just an answer that satisfies me as an inner truth. An answer that says, yeah, that makes sense. I can run with that. And for me, that's why I gauge myself at 67%. Because, to me, that's enough. But I feel like once you pass the 2/3 mark, and that's what really 67% represents, it's like that 2/3. You have 1/3 left. But once you pass the 2/3 mark, you don't have no choice at that point but to obtain the remaining the remaining percentage. I tried to get that pretzel. Yummy! Like the remaining percentage is going to naturally populate, self-populate. You don't have to pursue it anymore. You don't have to ask any more questions because you've already passed the 2/3 classification. So, you know, that's pretty much what I'm expecting over the course of the remainder of my life. It's just like slow, small, nice increments of obtaining more of the answer as to the meaning of life. Why are we here? You know, what is God, right? What is prayer? Why should we pray? You know, all of those types of questions. But seriously, I'd be tempted to just come on here and tell you what I feel like is the answer. But then I stop because I'm like, I don't want to ruin it. I don't want to spoil it for you, like the ending of a good movie. But what I will say is, I do believe that what I'm doing right now, playing Miss Pac-Man, at the level that I'm playing it at, on Twitch, live, having a great time, I will say that this feels to me like divine intervention and divine inspiration. And it's always felt like that for me. Like this was like Drake's song, God's plan. Like this was God's plan. Now, why is this God's plan? For me to be here playing Miss Pac-Man? Now that, ladies and gentlemen, is the ultimate question. But I tell you this, when people find out that I have a fictional story attached to my gameplay, and that this fictional story is pretty believable. When people find out about that piece of work, it all starts to make sense. Why I say, okay, this is God's plan. Because I don't believe major pieces of work, like for example, if you go with your whole family and you watch a blockbuster movie, the message that is in that movie, especially if it's a positive message, it might strike you as a parent a certain way, but it's definitely striking your younger generations, your teenagers or your children. It's definitely striking them in a way where it's motivating them to want to be that superhero or that positive person in society, that doctor, you know what I mean, or that lawyer. Like take for example, She-Hulk, right? I was watching She-Hulk and man, I was getting inspired to want to be a lawyer. So yeah, I think it's all part of God's plan, the way the world is shaping out and the different creative contributors to the world. I don't take creative work lightly. I think it's one of the hardest things in the world to do, is to complete a story that the world wants to hear and wants to know about. It's like the hardest job in the world. I was explaining to somebody recently, I think yesterday, that take a movie like take Lightyear, for example, Buzz Lightyear. If you watch it's like a short documentary at the end of it on Disney Plus. But if you watch that, you'll hear like the creator of the actual story talk about how he wanted to deal with the isolation of the COVID pandemic and just bring people into the character of Lightyear, whose narrative is wrapped around time dilation. And the way he connected time dilation to recovering from the isolation of the pandemic, to me, was very artistic. I was just like, wow, I really like that. And see, that's what I would say is like an example of God's plan. As bad as the pandemic was and as unhealthy as it was and continues to be, it really has brought out in many ways the best in a lot of people. I've just seen so many amazing things come forth and amazing developments. And I know I started talking about Joey Badass, but he even mentioned it as well, like in the Breakfast Club interview, about how he had to deal with himself and certain things on many different levels during the shutdown and the pandemic. So then you have to ask the question, well, as bad as things were and as much as people have lost, and then you have the long haulers, but as bad as things were and continue to be, how is it that so many good things come out of something like that? How is it that so many blessings emerge from the isolation? Woo! That was a close one. And, you know, my answer to that is balance. You know what I mean? Like, balance is the key. And the universe operates on principles of balance. And if you really want to get into the numbers, I mean, how many people are born every day versus how many lose, transcend? I'm sure if we were to look at those numbers, we'll see like evidence that the universe is in fact counterbalancing the aspects of death. So if life can counterbalance death, and if love can counterbalance hate, then you can start to see how even in the midst of an isolation situation in the pandemic, even that can be counterbalanced. And I just wish I had that insight, because I was one of the victims. You hear people talking about how they did all this extra stuff and achieved certain goals during the pandemic, and it was great for them. And I'm like, man, listen, I was like the rest of the population. I was like depressed. It was not easy. So shout out to all those people who were able to take their lives to the next level during that time. But the counterbalancing policy is something that I oftentimes remind myself about at the macro level as well as at the micro level. And for me, it's like, if you understand that principle, then it's like you don't have to react to everything. You can teach yourself to just say, okay, something bad happened, but just wait and see. Something good's gonna happen. And sure enough, if you stop and wait and see, and keep that mindset, that's important, to keep that mindset. Okay, something unfortunate happened, but something good's gonna come from this. There's a blessing packaged in this unfortunate circumstance. We just have to identify the opportunity. We have to seize the opportunity. And I feel like you really can't seize the opportunity if you're dwelling too much on the unfortunate event that happened, if that makes sense. But that all comes from the balancing principle. That all comes from the notion that the universe counterbalances. And like I said, love counterbalances hate. Joy counterbalances sadness. Life counterbalances death. Not necessarily all the time the way you want it to, but it certainly has a counterbalancing mechanism in there. Another thing about that equation is that if you understand the counterbalancing principle of the universe, when you witness hate, when you witness the type of things that make you not want to be in the world, to me, that's just confirmation that love is real. Like the presence of hate confirms the existence of love. The presence of death confirms the presence of death itself confirms the presence of love. Both must exist simultaneously. What's up, man?
Hey, how you feeling, boss?
I'm good, boss. It's just as real as male and female, right? The presence of female also establishes the presence of male. So if you ever had doubt as to whether or not love existed or does exist, just look for hate. And that's pretty easy to find. And it's true for racism too, right? The presence of racism proves the presence of non-racism. And I think mathematically it works out in favor of non-racism. And it also works out in favor of life. So yes, you've proven that life exists by the presence of death, but mathematically, there is way more life than there is death in the universe. And actually, you can't have death without life. There has to be life in order for something to die. It has to be initiated as life. So yeah, I try to operate all times at the principle of counterbalancing, the universe counterbalancing itself on all levels, which for me, it grounds me so that I'm not reacting emotionally to the ups and downs that I personally may go through on a daily basis. I'm not just being thrown all over the place emotionally, because I understand the counterbalancing principle. All right, so with that being said, whoa, close one. With that being said, with my best friend, I opened up talking about Joey Badass, and you know, my best friend Joey passing earlier this year, and how devastating that was for me. And I was just, and then the crazy part was at the end of December, I had another childhood friend that, you know, had a cardiac arrest, I believe, back in the days from Brooklyn. Another childhood friend just passed all of a sudden, you know, and it was just back to back. I lost two childhood friends back to back, December and then like January. It was just crazy. Shout out to my brother Isan. Isan, rest in peace. So I lost one to a tragic motorcycle accident, you know, and another one to cardiac arrest. Two childhood friends, man. It just messed me up. So that's, you know, that's death, right? And I think death is, for the most part, the reason for religion. Like death, when death happens, you have no choice but to ask the question. You have no choice but to ponder the biggest question you'll ever ask, right? That's just the side effect of death itself. And I think the same is true for life. If you ask the question about death, you ultimately have to ask the question about life. The origin story of life. Even a kid wants to know. A little kid wants to know, Mommy, Daddy, where does life come from? You know, why am I alive? Right? And if life doesn't force you to ask that question, certainly death does. And one of the things that really strikes me about death is how people will oftentimes seek to explain the unfortunate outcome of death as if it's some sort of witchcraft or like magical thing. And what I mean by that is like, I think it's mentioned more in Close Encounters. So like if somebody has a serious close encounter where they probably would have died, they get on social media and they're like, oh, you know, thank God, or thank Jesus, or thank Yahweh, or thank Allah for blessing me to survive that situation. And it's almost like they're hinting at the idea that they're in some special club that is the reason why God's favor was on them, versus the guy a minute after has the same tragic accident and is significant loss of life. To me, that didn't satisfy me. It didn't satisfy me, not even a little bit. I didn't want to believe that I was in some, or my mother or somebody in my family was in some special club to explain, some special club of righteousness to explain why I survived this particular situation and someone else didn't. Like even with my close friend growing up, Joey, right? I mean, he was in a motorcycle accident. I was in a damn near almost fatal accident myself in the year December 1st, 1999. I'll never forget it. I mean, I flipped 4 times in the Isuzu Trooper going like above 60 miles an hour. I flipped 4 times. I got the scars on my arm to prove it, okay? So if you want to talk about close encounters, okay? That's why I made the song, I Shouldn't Be Alive. That's where it was inspired from. And that wasn't it's like three verses in that song, which means in each verse, it's talking about a different time that I almost died. So there's 3 verses in that song, I shouldn't be alive. And there's actually more than 3 times. Those are just the 3 ones I thought about when I was creating that song. You know, so it just didn't sit right for me to think, oh, I survived that particular situation because of some sort of righteous club that I'm in that, you know, automatically guarantees God's favor. No, that wasn't satisfactory to me as a person. And I didn't want to even approach it like that. And I didn't. Like when people came to me after my accident and said, man, you must really have, you know, God must really be protecting you. You must really have a purpose in this world and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, no. That was stupid. I should have just kept going. I'm like, no, that's not what I believe. I don't believe that, oh, I have some purpose in this world and as much stupid shit that happens to me, I'm not gonna die. No, to me, that's just not a satisfactory answer. I believe everybody has a purpose in this world. Everybody. And when you pass, it's not, oh, your purpose was fulfilled. Whoa, I tried to get, I dipped in there. So naturally, religious ideas are going to try to answer that question for us. And depending upon what religious idea you ascribe to, you're going to walk away with a very complete answer or a very incomplete answer. But I don't think any particular religion is going to completely answer you, because it's subject to interpretation, and there's a high probability you're not going to interpret even the religious text properly. You're going to still add your little 2 cents, and your interpretation isn't going to be the full, complete picture. That's why, regardless of what religion you ascribe to, you're not going to really ever have a complete picture until you really live life and experience the ups and downs of it. Then you'll start to see what the actual message of the religion is trying to convey. And when you see that, along with life experience in your journey, then it'll all start to make sense. But what I believe also to be true is your particular religion, regardless of how many truths it might answer for you, won't be the only source of the answer. Like part of the design itself is forcing each person to consume not just their one religion, but to consume multiple sources of truth. It's kind of like National Treasure, and you've got to go on a national treasure hunt to get to the ultimate truth, and part of that journey is your life experience. But it's also allowing yourself, after a certain amount of time, to experience what's contained in more than just what you picked as your religion, but contained in spiritual systems all over the world. And that's what I've pretty much done. I wanted an answer, and I wanted it soon, and I felt like in my heart of hearts that was the right approach, is to not just limit myself to one particular religious text, but to explore all of them. And really to go around the world. And the beautiful thing is, with the World Wide Web, you literally can go all around the world now and read documents from writers in all different languages. It's just amazing what good has come from the technology that's out here. Absolutely amazing. You don't even have to speak the language anymore. Google will translate it for you. I went to this Instagram page the other day, and it was like all in, I think, Japanese. And I looked at the picture and I was really intrigued, so I wanted to know what were they talking about in Japanese? And there was this nice little link right under it that said, what does it say? See translation. So I clicked that, and boom, I was able to understand and process the picture the way the person who posted it intended. Otherwise, I would have just been, interpreting, trying to extrapolate from it what they intended, and I probably would have gotten it wrong. I'm pretty sure I got it wrong. So that C translation link really opened up the possibility for cross-cultural understanding and communication. That's why I'm like, man, if you don't have a global view of the world in this day and age, then you are really wasting the time and the technology that's been given to you. You're wasting the opportunity that the technology is presented to you. There was a time when, in order to get access to knowledge, you had to go to the library. You had to physically walk out your house, take a bus or a train, go to the library, sit down at a desk. Like you had to really make an effort to get access to just a book. I remember the days where I was just hungry for knowledge, and I literally remember I was on my college campus. I was so hungry for knowledge, and I would just go to the college library and just, depending upon the topic, because they have the books organized and the magazines organized by topic. And I was at an engineering college, but the information wasn't just limited to engineering. It was a beautiful library, I must say. So I would just go there and pick the topic and then go down the aisle that had the books for that particular topic and just flip through a few books to see what piqued my interest. And lo and behold, most of the time, I discovered something that just blew me away. I'll give you an example. One time I went to the library, and I was in the PhD section of, like, this is where, like, they had the PhD books, the thesis, and I was just flipping through. I picked up one thesis, and I don't know what drew me to it, but I got stuck on it. I don't know what drew me to this particular thesis. I can't remember, but I remember picking it up, and I was like, man, this is interesting, right? What it was about was this particular engineer had figured out a mathematical equation and a technology for balancing robots, balancing any type of device, so that the device can stand up on its own. And I remember just like, no, I remember that being my reaction. Yeah, I was really geeked out during those days. You thought I was gonna be like, yeah, I picked up a book about the Avengers or Blade or something. Nah, those things weren't even out at that time. But I remember, like, I picked up this, I looked at the equation, and it was like, it was describing this technology that today we call Segways, where you stand on a Segway, 2 wheels, even 1 wheel in some cases, as well as like robots that balance, how they balance themselves on wheels. Well, this particular PhD thesis was explaining how he discovered that. Almost got stuck again. And he had the equations in there and everything. It was so nerdy, it was so scientific. But the part that I read was just the application section, because it was like, okay, how can we apply this new discovery? And he was basically saying in that section, we could use this new science to create devices that can balance themselves, and it could be used for transportation and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, right. Fast forward 10 years, boom. We've got all kinds of balancing technology, 2-wheel technology, 1-wheel technologies, robots balancing themselves. I mean, now we got robots driving themselves, driving cars, right? Pretty soon it's going to be motorcycles. And all of this is probably based on that technology that I was just at the library just casually reading about. And the same is true for a lot of different topics. I used to, I had a habit, I developed a pretty good habit for myself where I would go to this website called Science Daily. It's still up, by the way. You can go there, sciencedaily.com. And what this website does, it's really phenomenal what it does. It presents science on a level where the average person can understand it, but it also gives you the scientific link, the links to the scientific journals, in case you want to dig a little bit deeper and you want to see the evidence of the claims that they're making. So I remember, again, just this isn't as long ago as like when I was in the library in college, but just to give you an example of how researching on the internet is so useful. I was able to get like notified by category if a new article was posted about a specific topic. And then I would just go every day by myself, just go. It would be like I get to work. My routine was like I'll go to work, log into my computer, and there were usually like 3 sites I would check first thing when I started work. I checked the weather because that is going to impact, what I was going to do today as far as lunch. I checked CNN, and then I checked Science Daily. Those are my 3 sites that I would check every morning before I started work. And so the internet, the World Wide Web, as we used to call it, is truly that. Different languages, different documents. I really do wish there was more free content on the internet versus having to pay for everything. Because there's times when I've gone to read more about scientific developments, and it was based on a subscription model. Like I'm not paying $100 for this article. Like why does everybody need to get paid for every little thing? And then a lot of the college websites that I was trying to go to dig up information, you had to be a student to get access. Password protected. It was like, it kind of defeated at a certain point the whole point of the World Wide Web. It was like, no, this is supposed to be open information, free for all. I get it. It definitely impacts the they got me fair and square. This is why I love this game, because you will get caught. It's not like some game where you're never gonna get caught. You're gonna get caught. You're gonna make a mistake. You're gonna get ambitious. You're gonna get greedy. You're gonna get caught. Guaranteed. And if you don't get caught, I feel bad for you, because you're not really enjoying this game to the fullness. You're missing out on the getting caught element. The point of this is I know the point of this is to not get caught, but also the point is to get caught. If you know what I mean. But yeah, I know I sound like a dinosaur, and I probably am, talking about going to the college. But I was hungry for knowledge at that time. I was just going through that phase where I wanted to know as much as possible about the world that we live in. For my own purposes, and of course, I had those questions, those burning questions that I mentioned earlier, and I felt like I needed to just go outside of my comfort zone from an information perspective and tap into what science is saying. What is the scientific explanation for some of these? And the thing I like about science is that if science doesn't know, it just says it doesn't know. It should say it doesn't know. Yummy! Like I was doing some research one time on gravity. I just really wanted to know what science had to say about gravity. And I was surprised that science really doesn't have an answer for gravity. And they can't stop gravity. They can't turn gravity off. There's theories about gravity, but there's really no concrete answer or way to manipulate gravity just yet. So some of man, this thing got stuck again. It happens. We're just gonna continue. We're still talking. So some of the most basic things that we talk about and know about, we really don't have any real scientific answers for them. We just have theories at this point. And for some of these things, there's no way to really test the theory. We have to just accept that the more we dig into a specific topic, we're just going to have more questions, not answers. Like quantum theory, for example. Like quantum theory has some really weird aspects about it. that just really, I mean, when you dig deeper into it, you're gonna have more questions than you have answers about anything. You almost feel like you're playing that game where you have to ask the right question when it comes to quantum mechanics. Physics is just turned upside down. It's really interesting what science has been able to answer, but more so what science has not been able to answer. Experts are still going at it, trying to figure things out. And that's because a lot of times we just, there's just no way to test some of these theories. In the early days, if you wanted to test basic physics, you could do an experiment, because you were operating at a scale where you could change different parameters and see what happens. But when you get infinitesimally small, or when you get incredibly large, you lose that ability. You can't test on it. You don't have a test environment. So you have to just theorize. I think that's ultimately where science is at on a lot of topics. But the World Wide Web is at a point now where you can literally listen to 99% of the different musical artistic projects and movies, as well as audiobooks. They're all in multiple languages, many of them easily downloadable or streamable via the internet. I mean, that's where we are right now. And I don't take that for granted, because let me tell you, whoa, Sue was there to get me, wasn't she? Let me tell you, okay? I remember how hard it was to get access just to basic forms of information. I remember, like, Blockbuster was so expensive. At some point, it was like, okay, the public library started to offer these movies, but they weren't the latest movies. It was only like movies that were like a few years old. So if you wanted to catch one of these movies, you would go to the library, and they had a whole rental system like a book. It was a little bit more strict with the movies though, because they only had but so many copies of certain movies, and certain movies were popular. A lot of people wanted to rent them, so you were able to like get the movie as you would a book from the library. But if you didn't return that sucker, woo, your library access might get revoked. For real. You better, whoa. Now the joystick is getting stuck on me. It was supposed to go right, but it went straight up. But yeah, if you didn't return that book, let me tell you, if you didn't return that video, that movie, and you had to return, it was like Blockbuster, you had to return it in good condition. Couldn't be no scratches on it. If it was a CD. It started out with the VHSs, the big bulky rectangular VHSs, and then it switched at some point to the CDs. And yeah, that's how you got access to these movies and audiobooks. And that was how you did it back then. That was literally how if you didn't want to get it from Blockbuster, that's how you got it. And back then it was like, a lot of people don't even remember this. It wasn't that long ago. It was probably like 20 years ago, right? Back then, if you wanted to get a movie, you had to go to Blockbuster, park your car, go in, you're hoping they even have the VHS or the CD on the wall, because if they didn't have it on the wall, that meant they were out of stock. So if it was like a hot new release, it was a high probability that you couldn't even get it for like weeks on end. But if it was there, you were so happy It was a whole experience, just renting a movie. It was crazy. Wait in line, right? Then you had to, if you didn't bring that case back in good condition, in like, I think they gave you what, 2 to 3 days maybe? Hot movies maybe even shorter, but if you didn't bring it back, it wasn't that short. I think it was longer than that. But if you didn't bring it back, then it was like your membership was on the line. It was all these fees, penalties, late fees. It was crazy. This is what we had to go through just to like have a blockbuster night with the family on a new movie. So the library was like a way to get the not so recent stuff for a lot cheaper, and Blockbuster was the way to get the more recent stuff that just came out. Either way, you had to go through a lot to get access to just a movie. So the World Wide Web emerges, and companies like Netflix, even before Netflix, but I think at a certain point even Blockbuster got into the space. But companies are now telling you that you can stream the movie. I remember how exciting that was. But the internet was so slow back then. It wasn't fast. So it was like, okay, I can stream it, but first I gotta download it. And the size of the movie was so ridiculous. It took like 2 hours, 3 hours just to download the movie, you know what I mean? Woo! What's up, Blinky? Then if you finally downloaded the movie, you hope the file wasn't corrupted. Then you had to start all over again. So we're totally spoiled today. I mean, now it's like you just go set up your little account, push play, you can rewind and fast forward, you can jump from episode to episode. It's crazy. You could binge watch. Like, we're so spoiled. It's just ridiculous. But I don't take any of this technology for granted, because I literally have memories of it just being a lot slower, a lot more difficult to just get access to the same things. And let's not even get into books. I mean, what has happened to the book market, to me, is just mind-blowing. And again, technology. It's just like, I'm surprised there's any bookstores left. Because you could just go to you can go to Amazon, for example, and just, you don't even have to get the physical copy of the book. You could just download the book instantly. It's crazy. To your device. Just read it within the next 5 minutes. That's how quick book consumption is now. They done scanned so many of these books, especially the new ones, just all in digital format, ready to just be downloaded. And the cool part about it is a lot of these books are still in their book format. And we have technologies that allow us to view it as if it were in a book, with the lighting and everything. So much has changed. So much, we've come such a long way with books and all these other things, music, in video games. Oh my goodness. That's not even, I mean, video games is just on another level, all the way, next level. I mean, look at this game right now. It's two-dimensional. It's pixelated. It's a lot of fun to play, I might add. But still, I mean, you can obviously see that it's pixelated. And I'm standing in front of an actual cabinet using an actual joystick. Joysticks are so obsolete now. I mean, this classic type joystick where you have just this one joystick that you hold, and the buttons are like over here on the side. But for Miss Pac-Man, there are there aren't any buttons. Whoa. Like Galaga, you gotta push the fire button. But these video games are now, oh my goodness, so realistic. So many ways to control the character. So many buttons. It's mind-boggling. And now you got the VR games where you can actually become the character and experience the character in first person as if you're the one flying, as if you're the one that's Spider-Man, you know, or Superman or Thor. It's just amazing. Like, true story, I was at a VR demo. Yummy! I was at a VR demo for a superhero game, and I was in the first person perspective, and you could change the character that you wanted to be just with the push of a button. So at first I was talking my gender identity. First I was the default male character, and I'm like, oh, what does this button do? And I pushed it, and I became, I think, like a Wonder Woman character. Now, this is in VR, all first-person perspective. So I look down, and, you know, my hands are white. I have breasts. I'm like, this is insane. Like, I'm actually inside of a woman's body in VR, as if I'm like this Wonder Woman character. I'm looking down and I see my female hands, which are carefully created to really mimic a Karen or Becky's hands. I'm just blown away by that. But I'm also kind of like, I'm screwed in the mind a little bit too, because when have I ever been in a female's body? I've played female characters in like video games. Even now I'm playing a female character, right? I'm playing as Miss Pac-Man. But I'm not in Miss Pac-Man's body looking down and seeing two breasts. That was weird for me. So from that point forward, I was like, okay, I see that video gaming is gonna get a little weird for us as we venture into the VR space and the AR space. True story. I was watching this teenager play a video game. He was a young teenager, so I think he must have been just turned 13. He didn't really understand the point of the game. You know what? I take that back. He wasn't a teenager. He was like 10, maybe 9. And he didn't understand the point of the game. The game was, what was the name of that game? It was a game where you're basically like the criminal. Popular game. You guys know what I'm talking about. It's gonna come to me before I'm finished this game. It was a popular game where you steal cars and stuff. Well, anyway, he didn't really get the point of the game. He was just experiencing the game as a VR. Not a VR, but as a simulation. And he was just basically running through the game, smacking people upside the head. That was his thing. But what he was slapping them with is what got my attention. If I asked people to guess what he was slapping people with in the game and didn't tell you the name of the game, you probably could still guess it. It was disturbing me. That's all I'm gonna say. Let's just say he was slapping people in the game with a dildo, a big one, big enough to really make a good thud when you get slapped with it. And I'm there like, okay, he doesn't understand the point of the game. I get that. But he does understand that this is a simulation. And he has the freedom in his simulation to do whatever he wants. So he gets that point. I thought that was hilarious to me. Like, wow, these kids are getting it. Sooner than later, they're starting to understand this, at least the simulation aspects of the VR world, the AR world. Now, what kind of effect it's going to have on them, that's yet to be seen. But it's definitely mind-blowing to see how far we've come. Pretty soon, I could imagine, especially with like VR technology, a lot of the things that we do take care of in real life, like if you need to deposit a check in the bank, for example, you don't really have to do that. You don't really have to go physically to the bank anymore in the VR world. You could literally talk to a teller via VR. You can talk to the teller's avatar. It should be talking to your avatar. And the transaction will get done. Just as if you were in the real world. Now, how cool is that? Oh, every time I play, I want to get a little trap. Yankee came for me. It wasn't a long trap. It was a short trap. It was barely a trap. I was thinking like this game, Miss Pac-Man, is a good candidate for VR technology. So it's actually a good candidate, and I have some ideas around how it can actually be formatted into VR for a really exciting experience, possibly even controlled by me playing in this two-dimensional format. Or I could feed this two-dimensional format into some sort of a processing engine that will take every twist and turn that you see me making and convert it into VR, so that you're experiencing it at home in the first-person perspective. Everything from eating the blue monsters to the ghosts, eating you, to eating the bouncing fruit like this orange, yummy, to going through the tunnels. Imagine I wonder what that would feel like, going through the tunnels. Because you're literally going in one end and coming out the other side like this, see? You're here, imagine going through that tunnel that I just went through. How would that feel in VR? There's only one way to find out. We got to build it. Technology operates on like a build it and they will come philosophy. Build it and they will come. But there's no guarantee, right? You build it, you spend all this time and money on it. There's no guarantee that they're gonna show up as enthusiastic as you are about the technology. And oftentimes a lot of the technologies, they flop because the builders were excited about it, but for whatever reason, the people in the community, the gamers or the readers or the bloggers or the end users weren't as excited about it. If you can dig what I'm saying. Yummy! Imagine watching me eat that fruit in VR. That would be so cool. All right, I'm starting to clock out a little bit. Around this time of the game, I start to mentally and physically get tired. It's just a natural part of the game. So last time we played, I made it to the kill screen and I actually fulfilled the quarterly requirement of making it to the kill screen. So that pressure's off my shoulder. There's no need for me to go to the kill screen tonight. There's just no reason to push myself that hard. Unless, of course, I want to do it for practice, or I'm just having too much fun and I can't stop. But I think I'm gonna call it a night at 5:50. You know what? I'm gonna call it a night at 5:67. When I get to 5:67, I'm gonna call it a night. Only have a little bit more to go. a few more levels. I'm gonna do some balance in motion. I bought my play ball. Where is it? There it goes. See that? Yeah, I bought it. Just to see if I wanted to play around with it. What I basically do is I just balance it on my hand like that while I'm playing. It's fun. It definitely makes the game even that much more challenging for me mentally. Because now I'm trying to literally balance this play ball in the back of my hand while I'm playing. I'm gonna try it now. Let's see if I'm up to it. Yummy! Let's see. Oh, did you see that escape? Every now and then, I give you an amazing escape. That was a close one. How did he get away from him? We don't know. That was an amazing escape. Even I thought I was caught. I did think I was caught for a second, but then I was like, wait a minute. I can get out of this. I just have to be patient. I'm just glad the joystick didn't fail me in that moment. It could have easily failed me. Alright, I'm balancing it now. Actually, it's actually coming off. It's actually pretty easy right now. I guess I have more energy than I expected to have. I'm gonna see if I can balance it this whole level. Hold on. Whoa. Let's go something on me. They're not giving me no wiggle room, are they? Whoop, 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 whoop. Did not mean to do that. Oh well, I guess the balancing didn't get me through as I planned. See that right there? I just balanced it like that. Woo. See that? Oh, it's fun. I'm gonna stop at 567 anyway. Let me do the other hand. Hold on. Doing the left hand now. Yummy! Alright, the right hand is balancing. The left hand is holding the joystick. Oh! Did not mean to do that. The joystick seemed to have got stuck right there. Balancing on this hand. We only got, what? 8,000 more points to go. Alright, let's get it. I'm gonna balance the rest of the game. So what album am I gonna listen to next? Now that Joey Badass has literally like raised the bar so high again with his latest project, which album am I gonna listen to next? I need some suggestions. Some real hip-hop heads out there, if you can suggest to me what album to listen to next, that would be most appreciated. If you're a hip-hop head and you really listen to like that real hip-hop, hit me up. And give me a suggestion, please. Because, you know, after listening to Joey's album, he raised the bar so high, just for me as a listener. Oh, gosh. Joystick is jamming for real, and I only got 3,000 on points, and it wants to jam me like this. I'm gonna try to just play through it. I'm gonna keep my distance. When the joystick starts jamming, you just gotta keep your distance. There we go. Still balancing. All right, with 2,000 up, we made it. Up, we're almost there. Let's get to 50s. There we go. Now we're done. Game over. Thanks y'all for tuning in to Sunday Night Live with the Pat King. And that's it for me now. I'm out of here. Peace and love. That's love. Shout out to Fiji Water for keeping me hydrated tonight. I'm trying to think, is there anything I forgot to say? Can't think of anything right now. Except, game over. I'll see you next time on another live. Don't know which day it will be. Oh yeah, make sure if you want to donate to Feel Greater. That's FEELGR 8R. You can also send Cash App donations. It's $ Feel Greater, FEELGR 8R. That's what I was supposed to say at the end. Now I'm officially done. Officially game over. I'm out of here. Peace and love.